No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you probably listened to WLS and,
Oh yeah, Chicago, Dick Beyond. You know, he wound up in Myrtle Beach. On WLS.
Wow.
Big
A few
rock,
times
well,
along
rock
the
station
way.
in Myrtle Beach,
As
and
an
it was
adult,
a 50,000 water, so it
I've
covered
had
the whole.
dreams
I don't know if he's still there or not. I haven't
about
listened
being
recently.
But you know, those are the stations you could pick up at night. You
semi-nude,
know,
Oh, yeah,
that,
yeah.
not
you could go
fully
anywhere.
Oh,
dressed,
yeah,
out in
yeah, that was,
public,
yeah, I
like
can call that.
and trying to find the bathroom at the same time.
Boy,
And
the
the
most
only
interesting people
bathrooms
in
I-
Charlotte.
Well, I think we're all here. I think all
Real
these
quick
people.
question.
Yeah, nobody in Rockville.
What is the
like
minus,
us.
the minus Q in there?
Believe me, I mean, I would say the same.
It's a execution switch. It's called the command line switch. So it's just
When I
like
left
a-
one station, I worked at WICO. and
It's like the function of the cron. That's a
Son.
like a parameter to that function.
Did a little work over there.
Okay.
So it probably means silent mode, probably something like that. Minus Q probably means like no quiet time. It's quiet.
I see.
Quiet mode.
Okay.
So quiet means it might not send an email.
Uh-huh.
It might stay quiet. The cron might stay quiet even if it fails. That's why they go to every damn medicine. That's just what
I
pops
see.
into my head.
Maybe that's why it's not working. That was the one change that I put in. It's not in the main instructions, but it was in another thing we sent them.
Yeah, the cron jobs as a whole, there's all kinds of help files you can find on cron jobs.
Alzheimer's.
I see.
They're super common, very, very common. They run on all Linux machines, so.
I see.
I just woke up with this.
Come on in, we'll grab some more chairs. Hey,
Guys,
Tim,
I
how you
had
doing?
some
Here you go.
broadcasters.
There's coffee and hot water and tea if you're interested.
Everything in Rockville.
There's a seat down there by Kathy.
Syndicated,
Yeah.
automated. I
Hey
know
there.
the guy that
Oh, okay.
runs the station. No, he bought it from the person when I worked with. I know.
Stand in chair down there, I'm pretty sure there is a chair there already.
Is there a chair there already?
Yeah, there's a chair.
Oh, there's a chair there here.
Just like third channel, they bought everything out now. I mean,
Oh, I know. I was talking to some musicians. Think I can't talk to them on the radio. And you guys told me the other night, we were talking about that back there.
Steve's coming in.
A mod,
I'll just sit back here.
That's what I got.
Yeah.
I can push the stuff over.
Experience was there, actually.
No, what?
They had a radio station
How you
there.
doing?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Now, it's the AM station.
can box me in.
They sing it back a long way.
It'll be your body.
It's all religion, and I think it's all satellite based for the most part.
See if this is.
Yeah, WTYC
Please,
in
no autographs.
Rockville, they've gone away. One of the Charlotte religion things that just uses it kind of satellite.
Right, yeah.
The webcam's not showing up.
Nobody's there, so it's.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
How you doing?
So. But yeah, that's right, I'll have to get in touch with you.
Well, I'm glad they, well, if you want to, hang on, I'll back in now.
Oh, okay.
Peanuts down.
It's funny, I want to go to Rock Hill because Steve, who is the journalist that scribes, he's the only person on my Facebook page that has that. I know his brother.
I'll change the wallpaper for the stream.
Yeah, so.
We're live streaming nonsense right now.
I had to do Facebook because he's a brother of a friend. And so I'm actually.
What is his, I'm trying to remember his last name.
White.
Steve White, yeah.
Hey, Michael?
So he doesn't, you know.
I've just gotten a little bit into YouTube, but it seems like everything else is.
Yeah, it is a little popular.
Do you have children that you're mad at all the time?
Absolutely not.
Seems like it. We're, are you from Chicago originally, or? We're talking about Kelly's Canteen, which used to be like a local, it's like American Bandstand, but it was local. And, one of the things I remember hearing about, I never saw, it's like I said, everything's pretty much on YouTube, but that hasn't surfaced yet, so.
Sorry, it's working out. It's capturing audio. So.
Oh, good.
All right.
We have name
So,
tags.
Is this like the biggest
So,
school
yeah,
you've
yeah.
seen since?
Tim.
Got-
All right, so this is our mood lighting here. We'll get started, and since there's some new faces, in just a minute here, I'll give an intro to this group and what it is and what we do and why we're doing it. Should be relatively interesting. And then we have some stuff over here, and then we'll cut right into our discussion. So what Nova.Social is, it's an attempt to two-pronged attack, right? It's called empower people and enrich lives. So an empowerment through knowledge. Knowledge is power, right? So we share knowledge and information with each other, hopefully good knowledge and information. And in that, the aim is to empower ourselves in our lives, right? Knowledge is power through education and for learning. And so this is like a continuing to just grow yourself mentally and intellectually is the idea there. So it's two-pronged. And second is to enrich your life, to enrich lives. So not just our lives, but the lives that can possibly gain from a knowledge share from a group like this. So that's the actual core goal of what this group is for. This is run as an outreach from our charity. We run an educational nonprofit here called USA Web School, and this is one of our programs, Nova.Social. Just for everyone here that's new, that's what this is all about. There is a donation envelope that passed around. It's completely optional. There's no requirement at all. But we send all the money from that to Second Harvest Food Bank. We've already done several tons of food for them. It's great. So that's what we do. We do that just to have another positive community thing. And we do the intellectual component and the discussion component, which is this, and then we do a tangible component too. We do community beautification and a few other tangible in the community projects through this small group, right? But we do live streaming. It does reach some audience outside of here, and yeah, it's usually pretty. Don't worry, you're not being your face if you're part of witness protection or something. Don't worry about it. You're safe, right? It's just an audio capture, and so yeah, so we do that. Try to do that every time. This is our 97th meetup for Nova.Social. So for people that have never been here before, we've been doing this for a little while, and it's been over 2 years we've been doing this. And yeah, 97, that surprised me when I noticed that the other day. If you go to Nova.Social, you can see a list of all the previous topics we've covered. And what Sue and I were talking about doing recently was going through and actually resurrecting some of the old, kind of cherry picking some of the highlights of some of the really good meetups we've had and redo them for people that are new to the group. So that might be coming in the near future. Kind of like a reboot on some of them we've had, because we've had obviously many discussions and 97 discussions into it. So dreaming is something that I think everyone does, unless you have some kind of disorder, which we might be discussing today or not. I don't know, we'll see. But dreaming is interesting. I learned about a year ago, or about 6 months ago, that most of my dreams are what they call lucid dreams, which have now been confirmed are a real thing and not just fantasy, which is pretty fascinating. I don't have non-lucid dreams, and that's bizarre. So that was this topic became very important and interesting to me when I learned that.
How do you know you don't have non-lucid dreams?
Because all of the ones I remember are all lucid. So, right, we don't remember most of our dreams, so yeah. But a sample set of all the ones that I remember I've had some type of control over the dream. I've never felt powerless or not in control of a dream, at least as far as I can remember. But anyway, also things can come to us in dreams, which is amazing. We can have eureka moments in our lives through dreams, right? We can actually solve problems and create new things from dreams, which is fascinating. And one thing that happened with me is I had this dream about a video game, right? And I woke up and I wrote the whole thing down, and it's now a real video game. Yeah, that's weird, right? So invented from start to finish an entire video game in a dream one night, and then just had to make it. So I made the game. Yeah. So we can solve problems and actually invent brand new things from our dreams, which is a remarkable kind of tangible reality to the dream world, which is fantastic. Hey, Wendy. Hey. Right? So for the new people that have come here that don't know anybody, that are kind of thing, we do pass around the name badges. So if you can put a name badge on today, that's great. There's paper and pen going around if you want to use it to take notes. It's really optional. There's no test at the end, even though that might be a cool idea. I never thought to do that. And besides giving my resume, that's me running my mouth enough to get into the topic here. But I would 10-second, 20-second blurb, just go around because we have new people. And I'll kind of start off and we'll just go counterclockwise. Why, I don't know, just picked it arbitrarily. I'm Chris, I'm your host. I kind of favor humanism. That's my bent as far as worldview. Believe in charity, believe in taking care of people. I think that's all that really matters. Next.
I'm Sue. I'm the host's wife. He and I share a lot of the same goals, helping people and trying to make the world a better place.
I'm Tim. I'm a skeptic. I don't know anything. I don't believe anything.
I am Steve, atheist, humanist, Unitarian Universalist, and skeptic.
I'm Ben. I like Stoicism, the philosophy, and then I like Buddhism, and I really like, meeting people here.
Awesome.
And I'm Bill Bentley, and my thing, as many people know, is Humanianity, as in humanianity.com, which explains it all and so forth. It's an effort at contributing to our coming together worldwide as a species, as opposed to being divided up into our tribes that fight each other and so on.
Okay, I'm Steve Rice, down in South Carolina, Rock Hill, and part of the Catholic community down there. I also believe in doing, good for the world, I guess. I believe in the reality of love and the power of love.
I'm Rachel. I'm glad to see I'm in skeptic company. I also pretty much only hold one belief, and that's I can't really know anything or hold many other beliefs other than that. And I think it's interesting that Chris brought up the thing about his lucid dreaming, because about 2 years ago, I learned what lucid dreaming was, and I was like, hey, that's all I've ever done. So I think it's cool that someone else is in the same boat, but maybe it means those are the only dreams I remember. But either way, I thought that was pretty cool.
I'm Kathy. I guess the only group that fit in is just free speech advocate, I suppose. And yeah, I just like these type of groups that you can talk about anything. You don't get that much in my age group, so I appreciate it.
My name's Albert. I am the new guy in the corner, and I'm just here to be open-minded and listen to what everybody else has to say on this topic. I'm excited to hear it.
I'm Wendy, and I'm in the Baha'i faith, which is very interfaith, but I also believe in the harmony of science and religion.
Hi, I'm Linda. I'm very curious about lots of things in life. I think like the older I get, the more I realize I don't know. So I'm happy to be here with all of you. Thank you.
I'm Cosmo, and I am a dreamer who has awakened to become a visionary.
I like that.
That's good.
I'm Carla, and I'm a researcher who sits on the fence and periodically lean one way or another until I talk to the next person, and then I lean the other way.
I'm Crystal. This is my first meeting, and I'm just kind of here to get to know people and see what this is all about, and just like to be around open-minded people who can talk about anything. And I have a particular interest in dreams, so I'm glad I was able to finally make this.
Nice.
I'm John, and still in part of what Carla said, kind of the same thing. I personally don't like to define myself, because every time I do, I find myself later regretting that. Growing up, I was too much of an intellectual for the stoners, but loved to smoke pot, and the intellectuals didn't take me too seriously because I enjoyed smoking pot as well. So my liberal friends think I'm conservative, my conservative friends think I'm liberal. So define myself is kind of difficult, but I enjoy being wrong, and I enjoy contrast, because learning something new to me is probably no different than someone else getting a new toy.
I'm Michael. I'm a Christian, but it's not my religion, it's my faith. I know lots of stuff, and I'd be more than happy to explain it to anyone.
Cool. So thank you, everybody. The logistics here is that the bathrooms are behind that wall through that door. You can also get to them around this way. There's 2 ways to get to them. I know it's a little tight tonight, but if you need to go by all means. You know how that works. Help yourself to all the amenities in the bathroom. There's like lotion, hand cream, mouthwash, all that stuff. If you need the mouthwash, use it. Yeah, right?
You trying to tell us?
No, I'm back here, I'm safe, yeah. So there's also like hand towels we recycle, so we don't waste try to not kill the environment, and also it's much more luxurious. They're bleach washed and all that stuff, so they're safe and good.
I'd
Everything's
like to
great.
hear about Ben.
Oh, I didn't realize you skipped. Ben, please.
Yeah, I'm a mad scientist.
Okay. That was great. So that's the logistics. Also, is that on the other side of this wall, there's like the hall that goes to the kitchen back here, and there's like coffee out there. Help yourself. It's just, and then usually there's people will bring some kind of communal food, and it'll be out. If it isn't, it's not. If it is great. So it's kind of like just ad hoc on that stuff. But the coffee's always there. The bathrooms are always there, right? So help yourself to either of those two things. So we'll jump right into dreaming. Did someone else? Sorry, I had to take care of the coffee pot real quick. But did someone else say that they had lucid dreams?
Yeah.
Oh, you're with me on that.
Yeah, no, when you said that, I've never met anyone else who, has had that experience. But I never realized it was weird until I learned what lucid dreaming was. And I was like, wait, isn't that what everyone does? Like, so, yeah.
Perfectly shared
With you on
experience.
that.
That happened here, by the way, which I first learned of that. Yeah,
cool.
that even was a thing. Yeah, I don't know who was first.
Talk
Bill
about
and
the
then
question
Michael.
mark on the computer.
Yeah.
Can we clarify what that means?
Oh, we
Lucid
will. We
dreaming
will.
As opposed, okay.
Yeah, we'll clarify that. It's definitely a big part of it. Yeah. Michael, sure.
Well, I'm going on the basis of what I thought it meant. It's being asleep and dreaming and realizing that you're asleep and dreaming and having conscious control of the nature of the dream.
Yeah.
And it happens to me every now and then while I'm dreaming, and to me it just ruins the dream. I'm like, oh, and I wake up because I don't like it. Who needs it? I mean, I can sit and imagine stuff when I'm awake, and I'm a lot better at it.
So supposedly, from what I understand, the cortex shuts off for the most part when you're dreaming, so therefore the rational part doesn't have a chance to like really interact with the dream. It's more emotive and it's more emotional, the dream, as it takes form and during the night. And so like the lucid dream allows you to actually retain some type of activity in that part of your brain and be able to control the variables in the dream itself, which is what they call a lucid dream. Yeah. So anyway, very recently did they prove that it's even possible, that it's actually a real thing. It's proven with brain scans that certain people that claim to be able to experience these lucid dreams do show activity in that brain that most people don't during sleep. But yeah, apparently it can happen sometimes and not sometimes too. So it's, I don't really know much more about it than that, but maybe some other people do.
You can
That's
also
all about.
apparently train yourself to lucid dream, yeah.
Yeah, that was through the Buddhism and some other religions actually. They have a meditative process by which they can elicit that more, which is fascinating. Michael, please.
Do you think you can dream that you're having a lucid dream?
Inception.
I think so. Sure hope so.
Bill had a interesting topic a couple of just meetups ago, talking about the fact that he dreamt that he was, and you might tell it better than I do, about the keyboard and the extra key on the keyboard.
The any key?
Wait. Yeah, it was a typewriter. It was in my late teens, and I was in my room and working on the typewriter, and all of a sudden I saw an extra column of keys. And I thought, there's only one explanation for this. I have to be dreaming. Now this is interesting.
So it's mushrooms.
If this is true, I should be able to see something abnormal around in the room along with this. And I looked around and everything looked perfectly normal. I said, but I've still got to be dreaming. So then I said, well, can I wake myself up? And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do that. And there I was in my bed.
I thought you were going to say it was your first time using a PC and not a Mac. Cool. So let's do that tonight. Actually, it would be kind of cool for us to go around and share like some dreams. I think that'd kind of be fun. At least it'd be like entertaining. We'll do that probably after our break. It's a new thing. We take a break like halfway through. So somewhere around 8 we'll take a break. Yeah. Cool. So there's a great summary. I'll go ahead and play that now. I don't usually use these, but sometimes I do when they do better than I can ever do. So let's go ahead and play this.
In the third millennium
it's short too.
Mesopotamian kings recorded and interpreted their dreams on wax tablets. 1,000 years later, ancient Egyptians wrote a dream book listing over 100 common dreams and their meanings. And in the years since, we haven't paused in our quest to understand why we dream. So, after a great deal of scientific research, technological advancement, and persistence, we still don't have any definite answers, but we have some interesting theories. We dream to fulfill our wishes. In the early 1900s, Sigmund Freud proposed that while all of our dreams, including our nightmares, are a collection of images from our daily conscious lives, they also have symbolic meanings, which relate to the fulfillment of our subconscious wishes. Freud theorized that everything we remember when we wake up from a dream is a symbolic representation of our unconscious primitive thoughts, urges, and desires. Freud believed that by analyzing those remembered elements, the unconscious content would be revealed to our conscious mind, and psychological issues stemming from its repression could be addressed and resolved. We dream to remember. To increase performance on certain mental tasks, sleep is good, but dreaming while sleeping is better. In 2010, researchers found that subjects were much better at getting through a complex 3D maze if they had napped and dreamed of the maze prior to their second attempt. In fact, they were up to 10 times better at it than those who only thought of the maze while awake between attempts, and those who napped but did not dream about the maze. Researchers theorize that certain memory processes can happen only when we are asleep, and our dreams are a signal that these processes are taking place. We dream to forget. There are about 10,000 trillion neural connections within the architecture of your brain. They are created by everything you think and everything you do. A 1983 neurobiological theory of dreaming called reverse learning holds that while sleeping, and mainly during REM sleep cycles, your neocortex reviews these neural connections and dumps the unnecessary ones. Without this unlearning process, which results in your dreams, your brain could be overrun by useless connections, and parasitic thoughts could disrupt the necessary thinking you need to do while you're awake. We dream to keep our brains working. The continual activation theory proposes that your dreams result from your brain's need to constantly consolidate and create long-term memories in order to function properly. So when external input falls below a certain level, like when you're asleep, your brain automatically triggers the generation of data from its memory storages, which appear to you in the form of the thoughts and feelings you experience in your dreams. In other words, your dreams might be a random screensaver your brain turns on so it doesn't completely shut down. We dream to rehearse. Dreams involving dangerous and threatening situations are very common, and the primitive instinct rehearsal theory holds that the content of a dream is significant to its purpose. Whether it's an anxiety-filled night of being chased through the woods by a bear, or fighting off a ninja in a dark alley, these dreams allow you to practice your fight or flight instincts and keep them sharp and dependable, in case you'll need them in real life. But it doesn't always have to be unpleasant. For instance, dreams about your attractive neighbor could actually give your reproductive instinct some practice too.
Yeah, she's a looker.
Stress neurotransmitters in the brain are much less active during the REM stage of sleep, even during dreams of traumatic experiences, leading some researchers to theorize that one purpose of dreaming is to take the edge off painful experiences, to allow for psychological healing. Reviewing traumatic events in your dreams with less mental stress may grant you a clearer perspective and an enhanced ability to process them in psychologically healthy ways. People with certain mood disorders and PTSD often have difficulty sleeping, leading some scientists to believe that lack of dreaming may be a contributing factor to their illnesses. We dream to solve problems. Unconstrained by reality and the rules of conventional logic, in your dreams your mind can create limitless scenarios to help you grasp problems and formulate solutions that you may not consider while awake. John Steinbeck called it the Committee of Sleep, and research has demonstrated the effectiveness of dreaming on problem solving. It's also how renowned chemist August Kekula discovered the structure of the benzene molecule, and it's the reason that sometimes the best solution for a problem is to sleep on it. And those are just a few of the more prominent theories. As technology increases our capability for understanding the brain, it's possible that one day we will discover the definitive reason for them. But until that time arrives, we'll just have to keep on dreaming.
Great. So I thought that was an awesome summary of just the, obviously, of the different theories on dreaming, right? And none of them, of course, went into the metaphysical part or the spiritual realm, which is like most of the classic kind of ideas about, right? The Egyptian Book of Dreams, the Babylonian kind of take on it and whatnot. And then later on, this kind of pseudo-scientific, metaphysical kind of Freudian world, as I think I characterized that pretty well. I think he was grasping at straws most of the time. But, putting now this kind of correlation into some type of tangible reality, trying to classify it, try to actually, categorically analyze it, right? And so there's this still two worlds to this day. If you do a quick Google search on dream interpretation and all this kind of stuff, you'll get so many more page hits, so many more results than you will if you look into the science of dreaming. That's crazy. That's still how we, I think, predominantly think as a collective. We still think of this of some type of connection to a metaphysical world, this dream world is, right? So I totally dismiss that idea. I don't think that's true at all. I think there's completely rational explanations, but I don't have all the facts, and so I have to leave the door open for that possibility. So I would, not to call somebody out, but if anyone want to offer their theory, a metaphysical theory on dreaming, by all means. And if I don't have any takers, I'll present one. Cool, Michael.
The largest collection of neural tissue that does not have a specific input-output pathway in the human body is the brain. And not the cortex, but the inner portions of the brain. And that meets my definition of something that looks like a sense organ. Because that's what your retina is. It doesn't have an input of doesn't have a neural input, it has sensory input and then neural output. And I think that it's quite possible there are things we respond to that are the white matter in our brain manages to get a hold of and transmits it to the rest of us. It doesn't come from any science that I know. However, I know that I wake up out of a sound sleep with certain knowledge. And I've had the opportunity to check it a few times, and sometimes it's wrong, but then that happens when I sit and study as well. But sometimes it's right. And most particularly, the most noticeable ones were with people that I'm very, very close to emotionally and very physically distant from. And I got in the habit that if I dreamt about one of my clients from the point of view of the client, and it was a distressing dream, I would immediately call the residential facility where I worked and have whoever answered the phone go check on them. And I probably did it 5 times, 6 times maybe, in 33 years. But twice, they had just left in an ambulance to the hospital, and twice the person came back and said, "I can't talk now," and hung up on me, and they took the person to get medical care immediately. So that's 4. And twice it was, "No, they're fine, man." You sound asleep. You want to give me a hard time? I got nothing to do here. And I'm like, "Yeah, I've worked there all night shift. You got nothing to do. Don't give me a hard time." But so I have what doesn't count as evidence for you, because I can make it up, but it does count as evidence for me. I had the experience, and I think that you used to have this thing people said that, well, 90% of your brain doesn't actually do anything. And
speak for yourself.
I've always thought that that's, if a person is studying the brain, has a PhD in brain, He's not willing to say, we have absolutely no idea what 90% of your brain does. No, he's going to claim it doesn't do anything because he doesn't want to sound like an idiot. So I think that it must do something, and that's one of my thoughts of what it might do.
They're support cells.
PhD in brain, I love
You're
that.
correct. Neurological.
So Ben Rayfield, then Cosmo, and then John.
So statistically, I believe that dreaming is when small chunks of the brain, which are adjacent to each other, think independently of each other, that they kind of form looser associations than while you are awake. And this is, in terms of artificial intelligence, to avoid overfitting, to try a bunch of different combinations to make sure the statistics are balanced. And metaphysically, which is a separate issue, I think it's just statistically other dimensions will get entangled with certain particles in certain neurons, and you can kind of reach your mind outward through that. I don't really want to get all the shapes and forms of reality, but I do think it's all a physical process.
Cosmo?
Rather than thinking about what a dream is, I'd like to shift it to how to improve our dreaming. And I'm drawn to the Senoi people of Malaysia, who are the dream people. They have a dream culture, and it's like, if one of the things about dream responsibility is that if I have a dream about you and you did something bad to me in that dream, then I'm responsible to tell you that of the dream, so that in waking life you can restore the balance. Do something extra for me because there's some imbalance going on there. And so when people wake up and the family is going to have breakfast, they discuss their dreams, and that makes it kind of like more important. They take care about that. And another thing that culture did was somebody had this dream about foreigners coming into their land. And in the dream, he did a dance. And because he did the dance, the foreigners were accepted into the tribe rather than having some conflict. And so he taught it to the villagers, and they all did that dance. And because they did that dance, then they were open to they were the Chinese migrants moving into the Malaysian, northern Malaysia. And so there was no conflict that arose. It was all forethought in a dream. Now, there's a part that we're kind of interested in of interpreting what the dream is. But there's another aspect where you manifest the dream. And that's how they manifested the dream. Somebody had the dream. He taught the tribe to do it, to make that, to bring that, manifest that dream into reality. And so that becomes one of the major themes of dreaming, is how do I bring the dream into my life, into the waking life?
John, then Wendy.
Okay. Well, I wanted to touch on something that Michael had mentioned. My experience doesn't involve dreaming, but it's very similar. He had talked about 6 instances where he had some type of premonition about people, and 2/3 of the time he was right. which goes along with my thoughts when I've had things happen in my life, which has been more like knowing when particular relatives were sick or in bad health, or in relationships when I felt like I had been done wrong. I've even been accused of being a warlock because I've had certain thoughts so powerful that I've confronted without any evidence and been right. But anyway, going with that, I think a lot of times we look for things to confirm our biasness, I guess, so to speak. Like, for instance, you know, when you look at a wall that's got cracks on it, or a sidewalk, you're going to see human faces. And I think a lot of times we look for things to validate our thoughts. However, what Michael was saying, 2/3 is a pretty good odds. I mean, I was right, 2/3, right?
Yeah, well, 4 out of 6. Although,
yeah,
I don't know that there weren't the ones I forgot.
Okay. All right. Well, nevertheless, I mean, I wonder about this as far as on the metaphysical side. Personally, I hate metaphysics, but I have to subscribe to it because I've had so many things happen in my life that it's like, after a while, it's like, okay, can I dismiss this as coincidence? And I can't. So with that in mind, I was wondering what your theories were as far as how the brain works and how this is able to be interpreted.
Like I said, it's a great big huge piece of quiescent nerve tissue, which some people think is just there to hold up the rest, which could be, but muscles would work better for that.
Well, it provides support, not just physical.
Okay, but I think that I don't know how my brain works. I don't know how the part that everybody tells me I should know how it works. Because I don't think mine works that way. It doesn't feel like that to me. So I don't know. I just know that I'm very much of a behavioralist in real life. If things are going wrong, I try to think about what happened just before they went wrong and try to change that from now on. But in the case of all of these incidences that happened regarding my clients, these are all nonverbal people who could not have told anybody anything, especially not in the middle of the night. So I happen to be very fluent in nonverbal after 33 years. So.
But they weren't present. You had this.
No, they were 12 miles away.
And that doesn't seem foreign to me at all, although it would to most people. But.
Well, and there were other experiences a bit more embarrassing to discuss that I had some confirmation of. So I don't know. I have no idea how it works. I don't know that. Well, I know it's not a reliable thing. I can't lay down and say, well, I think I'll figure out what so and so is.
Well, I haven't figured it out, so I thought maybe you had.
I can't reliably go to bed and dream about a particular thing. I've tried it, and that's not what I dream about. You know.
And Barbara Eden has never appeared in my dreams after all these years.
Fair enough.
No, never mind.
All right, so we'll move on to Wendy and then Ben, and then we'll come back over here.
Okay. Well, I guess I've looked up just a couple things on dreams because I guess one of the main cool things that I was familiar with about the brain, it's really about sleep instead of dreaming. Is that actually a cleansing system that the brain has that's parallel to the lymphatic system that we have in our body that cleans out in between the cells and sends the waste to the blood. Well, there's something like that called the lymphatic system in the brain. Lymphatic because it was associated with the glial cells in the brain. But it's something that flushes out the brain, and during sleep it does it 60% better than during waking time.
So you're talking about the use of the cerebral spinal fluid as a circulation system as well as a protection system.
Well, it's something that goes between the cerebral spinal fluid and what you call the interstitial.
Right. Space between cells. Yeah.
Fluid, in between the cells.
Mm-hmm.
So all that fluid in between the cells goes to the cerebral spinal fluid,
right.
and then to the cerebral arteries and gets out of there. But yes, so that's well, and it was saying that some of the waste it carries out is amyloid beta, which is what you have too much of, you know, when you have different dimensions and stuff like that. I mean, you want to get rid of all the toxins and stuff from out of your brain, so you need to sleep. But I was going to say a couple other things. That you know, we're familiar with REM sleep, or we call the other stuff non-REM sleep or NREM sleep. And it says that during that non-REM sleep, that's when you have the consolidation of facts and episodes, and during the REM sleep, that's when it's your emotional memories, and that's why your dreams are so lively and stuff. And in fact, it even said that people that have stable relationships have less vivid and frequent dreams, and they were sort of making it sound like, you know, the people with the non-stable relationships were more stressed. It might actually be they're having more fun. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the reality of that. But with that firing of the neurons to consolidate the memories, that's called synaptic efficacy refreshment. And so it consolidates the recent memories, and it reinforces the old memories. But that's enough now.
Cool, so we have Ben and Crystal, and then is it Rachel? All right, so Ben, Crystal, Rachel, and then Steven. Go ahead, Ben, please.
Yeah, so personally for me, when I eat like bad Chinese food or spicy at night, I get the weirdest dreams. And then I guess there's a stomach brain connection, because when I drink milk at night, I fall asleep really well, and then I do have some kind of dreams, but I can barely remember them. And then if I eat some omega-3s or any like caffeine products, you know, I could remember some of the dreams and a little bit of control, like you were saying. So I guess there is kind of like I mean, omega-3 is supposed to be a fatty acid, where the brain is kind of bathed in, right? Or you know, it uses in some ways. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying.
You sound like you have some type of amazing physiological understanding of yourself.
I don't know.
Incredible. It might be great.
I don't know, but I'm just saying. And like when you eat like healthy food like that, and you fall asleep, and then when you wake up, you feel better and able to solve any kind of problem, like they were saying. And then the nightmares, as far as nightmares go, like, you know, like if you eat something bad, I usually dream about like dark places and stuff, and then it's like reoccurring, you know, kind of thing. And then like my fear kind of goes away, you know, I guess in some sense. But you know, I would need to dream some more and understand it a bit more. But basically, my experience.
Awesome, Crystal.
I would just add to what you were just saying. Apparently, vitamin B6 is great for being able to remember your dreams, but it has to be pyridoxal 5-phosphate, not pyridoxine HCl. Pyridoxal 5-phosphate being the natural active form. And I have a long relationship with my dreams, I guess you would say. I have reams of dream journals that I kept in earlier years, reams and reams of them. And I would always date them, and there were several circumstances where I wrote something down, and then a couple of days or a couple of weeks later it happened, and then I would be able to refer back, and I would say to people, this was the date and that happened, and they're like, what? There was one instance where I was reading a book, and I dreamed a scene in the book that I hadn't read yet, and that was pretty bizarre. And the most recent instance was a sort of ish ex-boyfriend. We were still sort of seeing each other. I had a friend who had spent the night with me. We, just a friend sleepover, and the next morning I had a dream about my ex-boyfriend that he'd moved to Wilmington. And I told my friend, and I was saying, that was a really vivid dream. And then my ex-boyfriend, or whatever he was at the time, happened to call. And he was on speakerphone, and my friend and I were both listening to this. And I told him about the dream, and there was just dead silence on the other end of the phone. And that was that. And then a few weeks later, he said, "Do you remember when you told me that?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I was actually in Wilmington at the time that you told me that." And he said that was really, really strange. So he didn't move there, but well, I don't know, maybe he did now, but I don't know. But I mean, I use dreams to figure things out. You know, I will actually kind of make a suggestion to myself, or I'll write a problem on a piece of paper. I don't really do this anymore, but I used to. I would write it on a piece of paper, stick it under my pillow. I'd say, okay, I want an answer to this question, and stick it under my pillow. And then I would wake up first thing in the morning, and I wouldn't even necessarily remember the dream, but I would know the answer. Like you were talking about, Michael, and, you know, just like you just wake up and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, I completely know what to do now. So for me, it's problem solving for sure. And I don't know if this is a warning to anybody, but I've had, for the past few years, I've had loads and loads and loads of post-apocalyptic dreams. So loads and loads and loads. But they're always good.
I wasn't a doomsday prepper until now.
There was an apocalypse and we all missed it.
Yeah, it's always good actually. It's like people are kind of coming together. There's no technology anymore, and people are kind of gathering in small groups and helping each other. And it's always a positive thing. Okay, I'm ready for this. You know.
Sounds like Walking Dead.
Are there zombies?
Walking Dead without the zombies.
Yeah, Walking Dead.
So what you said here, let me summarize. You have a bunch of things and you have written them down in journals and they all come out to be true. And now you're saying you have these post-apocalyptic
Yeah.
But they're good. But they're good.
Yeah, but it's gonna be okay. Wait. Did I exist in any of those post-apocalyptic? Because I have to
say those who are left.
Yeah, that'll determine whether or not. I'm going to use your dreams to determine whether or not I'm now a doomsday prepper. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You're going to be in the rapture.
So I was just thinking about what Wendy was saying and what Cosmo was saying and about the little video we watched about, like, well, why do we dream? What's the content of the dream? And then how do we manifest those dreams once we've had them? And I think just even tying my own personal experience, I thought it was really interesting when Wendy said that there's studies that show that people in more stable relationships have less vivid and more infrequent dreams that they remember. And I forget the culture that you said, but somewhere in Malaysia, where, you know, if you've had a bad dream about someone, you need to talk to them about it so that they can work it out. And Freud was saying, you know, like you have like these inner insecurities. So it's almost like you're picking up on these like not good relationships, for lack of a better phrase, with people you have in your life. And maybe you're not thinking about it, you know, consciously, but subconsciously it's something that's bothering you and it's imbalanced, as you said. And that could be like why people are having, you know, more vivid dreams when they're in stable relationships, because their subconscious is unbalanced. They're like, oh, something's not right here, this needs to work itself out. So that'd be like one cool thing about dreams, if it was like, hey, you're not realizing this, but like you need to work out this thing with this person because your subconscious is upset with them. Like, I thought that'd be cool. But yeah.
So Stephen and Cosmo?
Oh, okay. For me, I've always been fascinated by dreams. I can remember very early on. I can go back and think of things that happened certainly before I was in elementary school. But the thing that is always, then when I began to reflect more on things about dreams, it is interesting that when you're dreaming, most of the time, you don't know you're dreaming. It's a dream awareness, I guess. And so, well, you're in awareness, but we're in awareness now. And what is the difference? So I say I'm in waking awareness now, but this could all be the dream, right?
You're dreaming about this meeting, which is actually going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. So I've always been interested in that, and I'm just interested in awareness, just that phenomenon, awareness.
I think there are many mysteries in that. And I know we've got the neurophysiologists and all that that are, you know, doing their experiments. I heard about one driving back from a meeting last night that they somehow gotten the electric signals in the brain and can somehow figure that, making actual words and stuff, and they're doing some experiments on that. So there's all that going on, and I've read a lot of that, and you know, I think, well, what they're, you know, they're experiments, and they're having observations, and they're writing about those observations, and that's all good, I guess. But it's still awareness. I mean, even when you have a scientific experiment, it's an observation. Now you say, well, maybe you're not directly observing, but there's some instrument, there's something, but then that has to become part of your awareness before you can do such things as come up with, scientific articles or whatever you're doing, or, you know, or you come up with basic mathematical formulas, and then you carry out experiments to, kind of validate those mathematical formulas. But then, of course, there's interpretations and different interpretations of formulas, really, and all that comes back to awareness. So that's kind of where I come down, in the sense of dreams are just another form of, or apparently to me anyway, a form of awareness. And I've done the same thing you've done with journals. A lot of people do journals at night. I've chosen to do mine early in the morning. And so a lot of what is going on in dream awareness is, and see, that's another thing. Words bifurcate this stuff. I think it's all one, really, myself. But you write down, and then of course you can go back, and that's maybe a little better record than, you know, memory, say 2 or 3 months later, to go back and, you know. But then again, you're putting it into words, and words are an imperfect instrument. That's all we got, but they're an imperfect instrument to really even register memories, I think. So that's where I am.
Cosmo, Michael, me, then break.
Wake up backwards. Wake up backwards. Instead of when you wake up, normally you wake up and you're kind of like, well, what's going to happen today? What do I got to do? Instead of looking forward, look backward and say, what did I dream? And pause and open yourself up to images, and then you might catch one. And you say, well, what came before that? And you might catch another one. You might catch a whole string of it. And then you can build it, but you're going backwards. And then you got to turn around and rerun it the regular way to capture that dream. Now, if you don't care about dreaming, then you just, hey, I'm just going to wake up, you know, gotta do stuff. But if you care about dreams, you'll wake up backwards.
That's a good point.
Now, one of the things Crystal was saying was dream journals and a pad right by your bed. Because not only can you record your dreams, but you can record the problem solving that occurred. You'll have a flash of insight, a few words, and you can jot them down, and dreams too. But you know, when they were talking about dreams that really made a difference, it was Rene Descartes, the founder of the modern worldview. I mean, it's like it started with his mind, and he got it from a dream.
Yep.
Einstein got his thing faster than light from a dream that he was going down in a sled. Dreams are hugely important, and they won't be unless you really care about them. Wake up backwards.
Nice. Michael?
My shrink assigned all of us to write dream journals. We were going to spend a whole month doing it before we ever exchanged them, but they wanted us to have the paper and pen by the bed with the lamp, so we would do a dream journal. Whenever you wake up, just take a few moments. Right now, I write 12 to 25 pages a day, even when I'm not writing anything. You know, it's not like I'm unfamiliar with the idea of writing everything down. I gotta tell you, I have never read a bunch of senseless crap like that before in my life. Wrote a book. I said, wrote a book. Should have been a theater. I don't know what that meant. I've had a dream about a theater. I've dreamt about it, but wrote a book. Should have been a theater. I had, so a lot of times I just can't read it. I don't even know what this says because I don't type when I first wake up. I haven't written anything to be saved with a pen in decades, several decades, half a century actually. I don't do that anymore because I understand that no one can read my writing, including me. So I don't do that. But I just found that idea of coming out of dreams and going into being a recording secretary, none of the stuff I think makes the transition. I can come up with a short description that I thought about something, but it isn't the thing itself. It's, you know, vague references to places, and I realized that, okay, I've lived in that place. I spent the whole note mentioning that I dreamed about being in Japan. Okay, I was in Japan, I remember it. You know, but you know, who knows? I don't see it. And it probably is really useful for people where you write it down and it's just coming straight out of the same place where the dream was. That's great, but that isn't what happens to me, I think.
Maybe if you think about it a little longer, like just lay there in the same, for me, if I change position, I'll lose it. So I have to stay in the same position. I just lay there with my eyes closed and think about it backwards, like you said.
Well, nowadays,
then, you know, if you come up with the whole thing, then write it down.
Nowadays, when I first wake up, there are more pressing concerns than writing things down. But, yeah.
Like write the letter P a bunch of times?
Yeah.
So we're about to go to break. Before we do that, I just want to say it's very interesting. Like, I don't come from a background of metaphysical, like, I don't believe in it. I think it's a trap. I think it's a trap because I see so many people get trapped in it. And so personally, it's my choice, but you know, I'm not denying anyone's experience. How could I do that? It would be wrong for me to do that, and I would be wrong too. You can't deny someone's personal experience. How could you do that, right? So, but I do know that, like, if you eat a bad ham sandwich, you know, you can freak out. Your brain can hallucinate, right? You get sick, food poisoning, near death, whatever. All kinds of crazy stuff happens to your mind. People that have taken drugs, I don't do that, but people that have tell me all kinds of crazy shit that happens to them when they're doing that. And then now we have this dream world on top of that, where this brain is doing stuff that associating things. Like, you know, I see my uncle, my dead uncle from 25 years ago with my new son. It's impossible coming together in a dream, you know, with Santa Claus. So what the hell? You know, so this happens in dreams. The brain's associating all these random experiences and activities and things, and you see shapes and forms that you haven't seen in those combinations. It's this weird matrix of complexity emerging, and of your brain doing all this wild association, and then your emotions are in there and everything else, right? So all these things are happening. And but we have all these trappings. We have all these draws to this realm, if you will, or these other realms of reality that neuroscience and other things seems to slowly be pecking away at explaining. There's a physiological or physical, biochemical and physiological reason for these things, right? And so as this like metaphysical world keeps getting chipped away at, if we're gonna hang on to that, and that's gonna be our only salvation, we're gonna find a tunnel narrowing on us. I believe, like in time, as you know, our human intelligence goes forward. So if we mostly stay in the grounded world, like in the world of human reality, and kind of See, now I sound like I'm dashing dreams here, and that's not what I'm trying to do. You know, I'm trying to give a position that hasn't been presented yet. Is this idea of this more grounded reality, and then take these things as like they have a functional, they have a function. I don't necessarily need to interpret the dream, but the dream had a functionality in my physiology that's good for me. Like we say, sleep on it. Positive things come out of your dreams. Your brain works on your life's problems during its slumber, right? And we'll talk about the sleep cycle and the REM stage and all that after we take our break. But we're now when we come back, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about nightmares, which is a huge kind of part 2, right? So nightmares is the next thing. Right? So Ben, can you hit the lights? So we'll take a 5-minute break and reconvene.